Here comes Olga. All right, so we are continuing on with our reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter called At the Star Theater 2, and we're on page 680. And Ramakrishna is has been talking with Girish, and he's just giving him some teachings. And he's talking to Girish about renunciation and about how our soul, how we must be restless for God. Rest, what does it mean to be restless for God? You know how it is when you want to go on vacation and you're just not you're sure you're where you're going to go for vacation. And so you're just looking at all different kinds of things and making all different sets of plans and sitting there and thinking about all exactly what you want to do. And you're just all into it, right? And just really working, but you can't figure out which one. And so there's kind of a busyness to it. Well, this restlessness for God is like that. It's like you want to get to the divine, you're not really sure how or what to do. And so you're just kind of restless, trying to find ways, trying to learn things, trying to chant your way, just being self-controlled. You're just trying all this stuff because you know what you want and you want it bad, but you don't know exactly what you want. You've got to figure it out and you've got to push forward in it. And so he says, he's talking to Girish, and he says, if a devotee prays to God with real longing, God cannot help revealing himself to him. All right, this is one of the cool things that Ramakrishna says about the divine beloved, is that he's real stingy about giving out pure love to a devotee, about letting a devotee have pure love for him. Because God says that, if a devotee has pure love for me, a love with no desire for anything in return, he says, I'm enslaved to that devotee. I can't say no to them. And so I'm very cautious about handing out pure love too freely because I can't enslave myself to everybody. And I just love that image of God, that he just falls in love with you and then he's just lolling on you, just blessing you and moving you along. So he says, God cannot help revealing himself to him. The other day I told you the meaning of bhakti, of devotion. It is to adore God with your body, with your mind, and with your words. Right? Now there's a significance in that. What is body, mind, and words? Right? That's that inner integrity of truth, right? That alignment between what you say, what you do, and what you think. That's also where all of your karma is created by what you do, what you think, and what you say. Right? So that's how you create your karma. So he's saying basically the meaning is of bhakti is to adore God with all of your karma making ability, right? With your body. So and he tells us, he says, with body, it means to serve and worship God with your hands, to go to holy places with one's feet, to hear the chanting of his name and glories with one's ears. So using your body for knowing God, this is what it was given to you for, right? The purpose of this life is to realize your divine nature, to realize your oneness with the beloved, with the divine. And so he gave you this body for that reason. So when you use this body for other reasons, it's part of your confusion, part of your delusion, right? And so we want to get back to focus on what the purpose of life is. And so we understand the body is for doing worship. It's for praying. It's for dancing before the Lord. It's for listening and hearing holy words, for reading, right, and studying. So with your body, and he says, with one's ears, and to behold the divine image with one's eyes. With mind means to contemplate and meditate on God constantly, and to remember and think of his Leela, his play, right? And so this is how you employ your mind by contemplation, by constantly wondering about God, constantly seeing God in your workmates, constantly worshiping with what you're doing at work. Whatever task your boss has you assigned, you're doing it as worship, doing it with excellence, doing it with integrity, right? And offering it all. And so this is to use your body and your mind to touch the divine, right? This is why he's given you a mind, not to sit there and waste it on YouTube shorts, but to sit there and contemplate, to think of ways to think of God. Gosh, I keep forgetting him. How can I stop doing that? Right? And to remember to think of his Leela. His Leela is this. Everything you see out that window, everything you see outside of yourself is this Leela. And then, of course, you are in the middle of it all. What does Leela mean? His play, right? So you don't take all of this too seriously. This is a play, right? He's sitting here. God doesn't have anything to do. He doesn't have any purpose in mind. He's all knowing, all powerful, and everywhere present. What's he have to do? Anything he thinks happens. Even before it becomes a thought in his mind, it happens. That's what it is to be all powerful. And so this is the divine play. And we are God playing, right? And in order to enjoy this particular video game, the best virtual reality game we've ever seen, right? Is this one that we're in now. We can feel it, taste it, touch it, smell it, hear it, unlike anything we've got on the computer. So this is a game we're playing. And we decided a couple of rules that had to happen because I'm all powerful, all knowing, and everywhere present. So I had to come up with some tricks. I had to figure out a way, how can I make myself small? I'll put myself in a body and I'll believe it, right? And I'm going to have myself forget my divine nature because it's no fun if I know I'm all powerful or that I'm everywhere present and always perfect. So I have to forget that I'm always perfect, and I have to forget that I'm omniscient and all powerful. And I'll have to enter into this body and I'll have to identify with it so it will limit me. And then I won't tell myself what the point of the game is. I'll have to figure it out. I'd have to just go and explore and walk around and look and wonder about things and then come to the knowledge, right? And then I'll toss in a few scriptures to help me figure it out so I can be sure to get out of this game at some point. Right? And so we just think that way. We look at God's Leela and we learn about God, right? You look at a tree. You're not learning about a tree because there's not such thing as a tree. The tree is the divine. So you study a tree, you're seeing the divine and you learn aspects of it. Look at the patience, look at the forbearance, look at the stillness, right? Look at that contemplation, that meditation of a 2,000-year-old redwood, right? So we sit and we contemplate the Leela, this world. We pick up a rock and we say, Rock, what can you teach me about the one who made you? Right? You sit at the beach and you watch the tenacity of the waves, right? And the strength of the shore and the interaction between the two constantly. And you see that's what restlessness is. That's what forbearing effort is. The waves constantly trying to take away the land, trying to wash away a continent. Right? It's been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, and still with relentless effort, it keeps trying and keeps trying. So this is what it is to contemplate the Leela. So we use our body, we use our mind, we use our words. He says words means to sing the hymns to him and to chant his holy name and glories, right? To learn those beautiful Sanskrit chants and to talk about him, right? So we use our words to find God. So really that's what he's saying. He's saying use everything I gave you. I gave you all these tools, right? To find your way out of this puzzle. Solve the puzzle and come home. Don't fall in love with the game. Don't don't stay in there forever. You did this to yourself so that you could get out, right? And that's an important thing to remember about this game is that this game you are doing to yourself. You are that. There's one without a second. You went to sleep and started a dream to enter into, and so you've done this to yourself. You've deluded yourself. And so all these big storming questions you have for God, he's just, he's, he's just looking at you saying, What? I'm you. Why are you asking me? Ask yourself. Why am I letting the hungry go? Why am I letting people go hungry? Well, that's your business. You're in the game. I'm the container of the game. You guys are in it. Why are you letting the hungry go hungry? Why are you letting the unhoused go housed? There's plenty in the world to go around. Why aren't you guys sharing it? Right? And so this is how we think about the game and how we think about our body, mind, and how we put together a narrative for the game, right? A little bit of ego. We're stay separate from God because we can't help it at this point. And so we create a little bit of a narrative. My narrative is to find God. My narrative is to purify my heart and mind and soul and to realize my true divine nature. That's my purpose for this game, right? He goes on, he says, devotion is as described by Narada is suited to the Kali Yuga, right? So the Kali Yuga is that's the age when Kali, the destroyer, the sustainer, and the creator is alive and well. It's a difficult age. It's a challenging age. And he says, because this age is so challenging, and what makes it challenging? We're working more than ever. Right? We're working more than ever, and our minds are packed with information, and we're so confused, and we're so unsure of what all of this is about and where it's all going. And so he says, devotion described by Narada. So if you get that book, Narada's Bhakti Sutras, it gives you the rules of or the methods and means of devotion. And so he's pointing us to that book, saying, in this day and age, that's the fastest and most direct way to God is devotion. To fall in love with Jesus, fall in love with Buddha, fall in love with Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and build that relationship with these incarnations. And through their grace and through their teaching and through their love for you, you will come to know the nature of the divine. So the devotion as described by Narada is suited to this age, this Kali Yuga. It means to chant constantly the name and glories of God. Let those who have no leisure worship God at least morning and evening by wholeheartedly chanting his name and clapping their hands. Right? So he's saying, I love that. Let those who have no leisure. That means if you don't have any time, at least worship God twice a day just by sitting down, singing a song, clapping your hands, enjoying him. Right? Throw yourself into it. Enjoy God twice a day and worship him. Sit in front of the shrine and singing a song. You don't even have to know a song. Make one up, right? Sing in one of your shower specialties, about your life and about what you're doing and what you're thinking. And clap your hands. That means be enthusiastic. Let go of your ego and be goofy. Be goofy in the shrine for an hour. Stand up, dance around, throw flower petals on the shrine, sing, just have fun. Just like a toddler in its mother's room. Express yourself. So those who have no leisure, those who don't have any time, they should at least worship God in the morning and evening by wholeheartedly chanting his name and clapping their hands. The ego of a devotee begets no pride, right? It's not interested in building its body-mind idea up. It's interested in manifesting his divine beloved from within. Right? So he's not thinking about that. So he doesn't collect things for pride. He does not create ignorance. On the contrary, it helps one to realize God. This ego is no more like the ordinary ego than hinche is like ordinary greens. Right? So this ego is this ego, the ego of devotion, is not like any other ego because every other ego, every other form of egoism is there in order to build itself up, right? To maintain its sense of self, to convince itself that it's real. I am me. I am a body. I am a man. I am Swami C, right? That's what an ordinary ego builds up. But an ego of devotion is looking at building others up. It's based on love. That's why it's called an ego of devotion, right? You've put its purpose to love, not to build, not to collect, not to acquire. You've set your dial to love for your life. One generally becomes indisposed by eating greens, but hinche removes the excessive bile. It does one good. Sugar candy is not like ordinary sweets. Sweets are generally harmful, but sugar candy removes acidity. I'm never real sure about what to do with those little things. Okay, so sugar candy is good for you. So devotion's good for you, right? And doing acts of devotion, even if you see yourself as the doer, don't worry about it. Doing acts of devotion is a good thing, right? Hold on to those. Hold on to your doership and point it toward God, right? Yes, the ideal is one without a second. Yes, the ideal is true. You're not the doer. But he says that's the ideal, and that you may not reach that. So in the meantime, love God, right? In the meantime, enjoy the play. Learn about God from the play. Nishta leads to bhakti. Bhakti, when mature, becomes bhava. Bhava, when concentrated, becomes mahabhava. And last of all is prema. Prema is like a cord. By prema, God is bound to the devotee. He can no longer run away. An ordinary man can at best achieve bhava, right? This is telling us we get a sustained love, a sustained ecstatic feeling for God is about the highest of what we can attain as a body mind, as an ordinary person. So he says an ordinary man can at best achieve bhava. None but the Ishvarakoti, right, attains mahabhava and prema. Chaitanya Deva, he attained them. So the Ishvarakoti, these are the chosen companions of God, like the direct disciples. Every time God comes down, here comes Ritu. Every time God comes down to the planet, as it were, he brings his buds, right? He brings his merry band of disciples, and they come down and they enter into the play again, and they put it all together. There's places in the gospel that we read where Ramakrishna is looking at his disciples, and he tells some of them, "Oh, you two are with Krishna. I had a vision of you dancing on a flower with Krishna, and oh, you three were with Jesus." He says, "I had a vision and saw that you had been there with the Christ." And so these Ishvarakotis, come along, and God, Ramakrishna made a few other people Ishvarakotis. So an avatar apparently has the power to nominate people to be eternal companions. And those eternal companions, they don't get to merge. They don't get to become one without a second until their task is finished, right? And so they basically hang out as stars in the sky in the mythology. Right? We have that story of Ramakrishna when he comes down, when he decides to come down to Earth, how basically he's a star, a shining star in heaven, well, he's actually not. He's on the other side of the wall. But the seven original rishis, the ones who wrote the Vedas and got all the Sanatana Dharma started, they're in the sky in meditation as stars. Stars are just that pure divine light of awareness in pure meditation, right? No sense of me and mine. So there's seven stars, and Ramakrishna comes over. This is one of my favorite things. He climbed over the wall in the indivisible. So right away, you know not to ask any questions because he climbed over a wall where there can be no wall. He climbed over a wall in the indivisible, and he goes up to one of the seven stars that's shining brightly there, and he whispers in the shining star, who turned out to be Vivekananda, and says, "I'm going down." And then he falls like a falling star to the planet. And a short while later, the star that is Vivekananda also falls and comes down to the planet. And then they had to find each other once they got here. It's fascinating, these little things. It makes for fun stories within the Leela, right? And so those companions of God, they can take it beyond just the bhava. But for you and me, our goal in life is to enjoy the presence, enjoy God, right? Submit yourself to your divine nature. Do your best to manifest a pure love, a sweet devotion. Do your best to silence the mind so you can access your native wisdom and learn to be in the moment, be here now, and go forward, enjoying God. You're Nothing else matters, right? Nothing else matters unless you make it matter.
So, Amiji, when you say seven stars, do you mean really the seven like Ptolemaic planets, the seven uh, what in Hindu astrology is known as planets?
Uh,
Are these the correspondence?
the, I'm going. Okay, here's the thing. When we're talking at that level, it's pure metaphor. right? It's pure metaphor because they, Ramakrishna is in the realm of the undivided, and it says that he crossed over a wall to come to the seven rishis who are shining like stars in the night sky, right? So it's a way of telling a story about what happened in a place where nothing happens, right? It's a place of isness. It's not a
But
place of narratives.
however, when he climbed over the invisible wall, in
Indivisible, yeah.
right, so I kind of so he crossed into from into the manifest, right, from unmanifest into manifest. So there are
With
seven
yeah,
shining stars there, right? So
right. And
seven probably, I assume, has some sort of a meaning, like symbolic meaning. Seven.
seven generally means complete. It's the perfect number,
Okay.
and so you've got seven stars, and it turns out to be the seven rishis, the mythological men and women who went to the Himalayas to figure out what life is about, and who wrote the Vedas that gave us all of the information that eventually came out as the Upanishads and the teachings of the Sanatana Dharma that became all religions at that point. Yeah, so no, when you talk about things like that, it's important, it's what I tell people who like do Patanjali's yogas and they get all caught up in the different chakras and the different meridians and blah 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 blah. It's like you have to be very careful because those scriptures were not written to make you a spiritual biologist, right? They weren't written for you to know all about the body and the meridians and the chakras and the whatnots. They were written for you to find your freedom, right? And so it's important not to get lost in them and to start becoming a spiritual doctor of sorts, where you know all of these things and you research all these more of these things, and basically you've gotten entangled in something by using it in a way that really that's not what it's for. So use the scriptures, all of the scriptures, and use all of the teachings to figure out how to reduce your ego and how to find your inherent freedom within yourself. They are not there to turn us into philosophers or to turn us into material, uh, spiritual material biologists or chemists or uh, you know things like that. There's enough to study for that, and you can certainly get into that. But I remember when one of my friends first got started with his Vedanta. He was all concerned about, oh, I have to find an animal skin so I don't get impurities up from the ground and that don't enter into me from the ground. And oh, I have to get a certain silk asana, to help me find more purities, to stop the energies from coming up. And oh, I have to get beads that are made of this type of bead, and I have to keep them in a bag to protect them from the energies of the world around them and stuff. And he was asking me about all this stuff, and I says, bro, just get some beads and get to work. Get to beads and get to work. And when you start feeling energies coming up out of the ground and disturbing your meditation, then go buy a silk cloth for it. If you once you start feeling and realizing the truth of these things, then it's time for you to take up those things. But don't get all caught up in the snazzy yoga pant uh, decoration syndrome. Just do your practice. Do your practice and try to look inward and find your heart of love and go forward. Don't, uh, you know, of course, even saying this, it's like there's going to be people that are going to be doing it anyway, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just say be careful about getting lost in all of this material, right? It's here to set us free, not to teach us how to be something, right? So by prema, God is bound to the devotee, right? That's what we were talking about. When he gives pure love, God's under the control of pure love. And here he's playing in a little bit, saying that God is bound to the devotee, right? Who has prema, like he has to obey him. But and that's the way he's talking because of the fun of that, because of the sweetness of that. But really, what happens is if you have prema, then basically you have the same mind as the beloved. You have pure love within you. And so it's not that God is bound to you, it's that you're merging. It's that you would not ever say or want anything that was different from the divine's will if there were such a thing, right? That you're in perfect harmony with God. And so the way that that would look to everybody else in the room is like, oh, look, you're in total, she's totally in charge of God. But really, her mind has disappeared, has become so clear that God expresses directly through it. And it's not that God is bound, it's that God is you. You know, that God has become all things. An ordinary man can at best achieve bhava. None but the Ishvarakoti attains Mahabhava and Prema. Chaitanya Deva attained them. And what is the meaning of Jnana Yoga? Right, the path of knowledge. It is the path by which a man can realize the true nature of his own self. It is the awareness that Brahman alone is his true nature, right? That your divine nature is the image of God. That's what Jnana Yoga is. It's coming to know that you and the divine image are one, that there's no difference, that the adjectives that you add to I am when you describe yourself are the things that have tied you into your particular. But the I am is the only true part, and that is God, right? And so once you get to work out and let go of all of your attributes, then you slide back into the shoes that fit God alone, right? It is the awareness that Brahman alone is his true nature. Prahlada sometimes was aware of his identity with Brahman, and sometimes he would see that God was one and he another, and at such times he would remain in the mood of bhakti, right? So there's these different levels of consciousness that we live at. At first, God is separate from us. Matter of fact, we don't know where he is, and we're trying to find him, right? He's run off somewhere, or we've run off somewhere. Somebody's run off, and we've got to get back together again. And so you start working on that. And as you start working on that, start moving inside and making progress, then you start to feel like God isn't so far away. And you feel some intimacy there. He seems to be within your own self. And when you pray, you can pray in silence. And when you can feel the presence, you feel it coming from within the shrine of the heart. And you start thinking that, wow, God is the whole and I'm a part of God. You know, I'm a finger on the body of God. And so we move into that level of consciousness. And as we get more and more advanced in that, where our prayers are no longer words, but our prayers are acts of surrender and opening, right? And it's a silent communion with the beloved, and you fully are coming to know yourself as spirit alone, then you realize in that silence within, when nothing needs to be said to God and nothing needs to be said by God, because you are in your nature at that point, and love is at the wheel of your chariot, so to speak. At that point, you come to know, right? You don't think anymore. You come to know that I am not different from God. God is not different from me. That we are one, right? Because you've given up everything that made you different. You've given up everything that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil gave to you. You gave up egoism, and thereby you earned the right to conquer your desires and enter back into paradise, right? Enter back into the garden which is within you. So, what is the meaning of Jnana Yoga? It's the path by which a man can realize the true nature of his own self. It is the awareness that Brahman alone is his true nature. Prahlada sometimes was aware of his identity with Brahman, and sometimes he would see that God was one and he was another, and at such times he would remain in the mood of devotion, right? So if you feel separate from God, you just put on the mood of devotion. You start enjoying the presence. And that's how you practice uh, being a bhakta. Hanuman said, O Rama, sometimes I find that you are the whole and I am a part, and sometimes that you are the master and that I'm your servant. But, O Rama, when I have knowledge of reality, I see that you are I and I am you. Girish, who was sitting there off to the side, is like, whoa, right? His mind's blown. He's like, oh, wow. Master, well, why shouldn't a man be able to realize God in the world? But he must have discrimination and dispassion, right? So when he says in the world, a person who's out working for a living, that's what he's talking about, someone who's engaging with the world. He says, why shouldn't they be able to realize God? I mean, they have the same nature as a monk, right? They have the same nature as a monk. They have the same nature as a Jesus or a Buddha, just at different power levels. He says, so you can do it, but you have to have these two things, discrimination. This discrimination is the constant awareness of that which is changing is unreal, and that which is unchanging alone is real, right? And so as you're making yourself through the world, going through the world, you're like, okay, anything that's changing, I don't need to stress about. It's unreal. I have to find and maintain myself in a place within me that doesn't change. That part of me where the I, the capital I, is held. That has always been there, that has always allowed me to know who I was talking about when I said I. So you have to find that space within, and you have to learn to remain in that space, because that space is in the middle of the shrine of the heart, where love is worshipped with love, right? And that atmosphere and that shrine grows, and you want to stay in that shrine. You don't want to move into the mind. You want to stay in the shrine and enjoy that love, and that love begins to overflow. You get a little drunk on it, get a little tipsy on it, right? And it starts to overflow. You just start to spill it out in your daily life like that. So he says you have to discriminate constantly. You have to always look with that which is real, that alone which is real is the unchanging within me. I identify with silence. I identify with that I, right? And the dispassion means I'm not going to nourish any interest in things that change. I accept them. I use them in my game to know God, but I'm not going to get interested in collecting them or organizing them or playing with them or buying and selling them. I'm just going to stay here and do what arises in the present as the present, right? No plan around it. Just let that which needs to arise arise. Do what love and wisdom do in my presence and repeat. He says, but he must have discrimination and dispassion. He must have the unshakable awareness that God alone is real and all else is unreal and has but 2 days' existence. It will not do to float on the surface. You must dive deep. With these words, the Master saying, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Right? So this is really where it comes down to. Don't just hang out on the surface. Where's the surface? The surface is where the waves are. What are the waves? That's representative of the changing world. So being on the surface is living in your senses and try and worrying about what you want and what you like and what you need and what you hope for and what you're longing for and all of that stuff and running about, collecting pigs to put on your little tchotchke shelf and, you know, becoming a connoisseur of coffee or a connoisseur of art or a connoisseur of tea. This is what you decide to spend your life on, these things that float on the surface, up where the waves are churning. He says it won't do to live there. You're not going to get anywhere if you live there. None of that is real. When one wave passes, the next wave comes along and it's going to pass too, and then be replaced again with something else. So he says, dive deep, right? Go down, go get below your mind, get below the heart, get into the shrine down here, into that stillness. And in that stillness, you'll find the gem of love. You'll find that place within you, within which God manifests from, where that divine love enters this world. And instead of being forced through the prism of some freaky little ego, it gets to flow freely out of you because you're sitting in the realm of silence, right? And you let that express. So dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty, right? The ocean of God's beauty, this Dive deep here. Don't be fooled by it. This is God's beauty. So don't love the mountain because the mountain is beautiful. Love God because God is the mountain that is beautiful. Right? And so this is the thing. Let everything that you enjoy and touch and trust in this world point to God alone. Don't go grabbing things for the thing itself, because that thing itself will not remain that thing. It will become something different. And if you hold on to the thing itself, you will always be empty-handed, right? Because that's the way it is. If you fall in love with a flower for being a flower, then you're going to be beholden to having to buy bouquets of flowers every week to put on your cabinet. So you're going to have to work to get that to happen. And to maintain that, you have to clean them up and you have to cut them down and you're going to have to do all of these things. Don't, look at the flower and let it be. And say, beautiful mother, beautiful mother. So dive deep into this ocean of God's beauty. If you go to the uttermost depths, if you go beyond it, there you will find the gem of love. Master, you must remember one thing. In the ocean, there is danger of alligators, that is to say, of lust and the like. Right? So if you're going to go jumping in the swamp to swim and play, there's alligators. There's piranha, there's all of these things out there. So if you're going to jump into the world, do it with caution. No, there's going to be stuff out there that's going to grab you. There's going to be stuff out there that wants to devour your time and your energy and take your body, which was here for God, and make you use it for other things, to take a mind that is here for the beloved and there to show love, and he's going to make you use it for other things, right? And you're going to pretty soon believe in those things, and then you're stuck in the washing machine, right? You can't find your way out. So remember, in the ocean there is danger of alligators, that is to say, of lust and the like. Girish, I'm not afraid of the king of death. Master, I laugh because, Girish is a pretty worldly guy. He's got a great heart. He's an amazing person. He becomes a saint, not to belittle Girish at all. But it's always the beginner who yells out these dynamic statements of, I'm not afraid even of the king of death, right? Well, you haven't yet met him. Maybe that'll change, right? I'm not afraid of the king of death, the master, but I'm speaking of the danger of the alligators of lust and the like. Because of them, one should smear one's body with turmeric before diving in. The turmeric of discernment, discrimination, and dispassion, the two things that he said are necessary. So the way to keep these alligators away from you is, one, your discrimination is going to keep them from being able to get a hold, right? That turmeric on your body, they're not going to be able to get a bite, a grip with their jaws on you, because that turmeric of discernment will keep you fighting, will keep you separate from them. It gives you the knowledge. You're not real. You're changing. Yeah, I'm not going to pursue you. I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not interested in that, right? And then the dispassion. You push him away once you've defeated him. You push him away and continue on. Some attain knowledge of God in the world. Mention is made of two classes of yogis, the hidden and the known. Those who have renounced the world are known yogis. Everyone recognizes them, right? So those are the guys that are always dressing in orange, right? So they're the ones that you see, or that you see that they're going after this knowledge. So those who have renounced the world are the known yogis. Everyone recognizes them. But the hidden yogis, they live in the world, right? These are the folks, they don't want the attention of the orange robes. They don't want that whole scenario. They want to live in the world. And he says they're not known. They are like the maidservant who performs her duties in the house, but whose mind is fixed on her children in the country. They are also, as I have told you, like the loose woman who performs her household duties zealously, but whose mind constantly dwells on her lover. It is very hard to cultivate discrimination and dispassion. right? So this unseen yogi is the person who's living in the world, but living a holy life, but doesn't look any different. It's just that he they that she he they she loves and has compassion and is moving along, but is not at all ostentatious about it. Isn't doing it for any other reason than to be what they are, right? And living in the world. And so this is what he's saying. There's just two different paths. It's not one path is great and the other path is mediocre. It's that there's two paths that lead to God. One is through the world, living, and in that one, Swami Prabhupada told me that in that path you expand your ego by loving the people of. At first, you love yourself. That's what you have to do. You have to learn to love yourself, to be kind within, to be gentle within, to cultivate an atmosphere of a general fond regard for yourself. And then once you do that, you get a partner, right, to spend your life with. And so now your ego has to expand to hold two people, not just this one person anymore. Now the ego expands and holds these two people. And then you have a child, and the ego is forced to expand again. It can no longer just consider this one body. It now has three bodies to consider and three minds to take care of. Then another child comes, and then that child grows up and has a wife, and then they have more children, and then those children have friends, and blah, blah, blah. And you see, so the householder continues to expand his sense of self to include the whole world, one by one, right? To reach out. The householder is responsible, number one, my money is for myself first, to make sure that I take care of my house, take care of my food, take care of my clothing. Anything that I left over then goes to help my holy friends around me, to help the center, help the church, help the monks. And when everybody's doing fine at that level and I still have extra money, then my responsibility is towards society. Society is the householder's responsibility, right? So it's the householder who makes the money that goes out in order to create a beautiful society where everybody's needs are taken care of. And so the householder keeps expanding his sense of self until his ego is so large that it contains everybody. He sees everyone as himself and egoistically takes care of everyone as himself. That's the path of the householder. The path of the monk is he pushes everyone back, gets everyone arm's length away. Says, I don't, everyone is my mother, everyone's my father, everyone's my brother. I don't have any special relationships. And then he does practice in order to bring everybody one step closer at a time, so that in at the ultimate, his ultimate realization is that everybody is his family. Everybody is his mother, child, father, you know. And so he does that through that practice. So two different paths, two different paths. And Ramakrishna says again and again, householders can realize God just as a monk can realize God. Right? And then everybody remembers what Vivekananda says, where he says nobody can realize God without becoming a monk. That's just semantics. Yes, it's true, because a householder who loves everybody equally because he's expanded himself to be the whole world fundamentally is a monk. That's that's what it is to be a monk. They're both going for the same goal, and when they get there, they're both there. Right? And that's one way of looking at it. The other way that I look at that is that nobody leaves this world a householder. Right? We only have two choices in this world. And the choice is either I'm going to hold on to everything, I'm going to be attached to everything, and it's going to be ripped from my fingers when I die. So my renunciation is going to happen when God rips everything I have from me and lets the body fall, right? And the other one is, nope, I don't want him to rip it from me. I'm going to drop it before he has to do that. Right? So you get to choice. You can either let go of everything and transcend this world, or you can cling tightly and have it taken away from you. It's up to you. But definitely try to have nothing in your hands by the time you get to your deathbed. Right? Be there so that you can be free at that point. All right. So the hidden and the known yogis. like the maidservant, right? Who works in the household of the rich man, takes care of the children as if they're her very own, but she knows they belong to the rich man, even though I've come to love them as my own kids, right? Even though I fix this house up like it's my own house, I know that when the time comes, when I leave, I can take nothing with me. This house belongs to the rich man. And then this loose woman, which I'm, it's so contrary to Christianity, the thing, the way that he would use a loose woman loving her paramour, as an example of loving God. I just delight in that. It really shows all things are God. So I've told you, like the loose woman who performs her household duties zealously, but whose mind constantly dwells on her lover. It is very hard to cultivate discrimination and dispassion. It is not easy to get rid of the idea that I am the master and all of this is mine. I saw a deputy magistrate who earns a salary of 800 rupees paying no attention to a religious discourse. He had brought one of his children with him and was busy finding a good place for him to sit. I know another man, whom I shall not name, who used to devote a great deal of time to Jupam, but he bore false witness in court for the sake of 10,000 rupees. Therefore I say that a man can realize God in the world too, but only if he has discrimination and dispassion. Only if you are walking that razor's edge. Everything that you encounter in every moment, you discern. Is this changing or is this not changing? If it's changing, it's not real. So you don't let yourself become overly interested in it, right? Don't let it block out your quest for the divine. Girish, well, what will happen to this sinner, right? Who self, sitting there holding his bottle of wine, like, God, what's gonna what's gonna happen to me, right? Sri Ramakrishna sang in a tender voice, turning his eyes upward. Meditate on the Lord, the slayer of hell's dire woes, he who removes the fear of death. Thinking of him, the soul is freed from worldly grief and sails across the sea of life in the twinkling of an eye. Consider, O my mind, why you have come to earth. What gain is there in evil thoughts and deeds? Your way lies not through these. Perform your penance here by meditating long and deep on the everlasting Lord. Right? So this is what Vivekananda Ramakrishna is telling Girish. Doesn't matter. Just keep thinking of God. Just keep thinking of God. Yes, all kinds of things are going to arise, and your mind's going to want to identify with every single one of them. Don't. Don't identify with them. You are not defined by the things in the world, the things of the senses. You are defined by the divine image within you. Right? And so this is what we do. We meditate on the Lord, the slayer of the woes of hell, right? The slayer of hell's dire woes. He who removes the fear of death, right? Because we see the body is just the changing of a pillowcase, Ramakrishna says. Thinking of him, so thinking about God, the soul is freed from worldly grief, right? It shows us we aren't surprised when we get sick. We aren't surprised when someone dies because we know that's the nature of this place. That's what's going on all the time. Why would I get upset about it? Why would I freak out about it? I knew my wife was going to die the day I married her. I knew my child would get sick as soon as he had a body, right? So I accept it. I knew this before we started. Why am I going to pretend to be surprised by it? And why am I going to bother to be grievous over it? Over it? I accept it. This is the nature of this place. Everybody told me that which changes is not real. So I never fell in love with the things that weren't real. I fell in love with that which does not change within me. And that same thing that does not change is within everyone that I love. And that is why I love them. Right? It's not the changing things that about them that I fell in love with. It's not their body and their hair, their cool eyes and their big muscles or their little muscles. Right? Master sails across the sea of life in the twinkling of an eye. One attains the vision of God if Mahamaya steps aside from the door. Right? Mahamaya's grace is necessary, hence the worship of Shakti. Right? So Mahamaya, the queen of the queen of heaven, as it were. Right? The divine feminine. You have to get mother's permission to leave this world. You cannot be freed from this world until mother lets you go. Right? And hence the worship of Shakti. This is why we propitiate the Divine Mother. Right? You see, God is near us, but it is not possible to know him because Mahamaya stands between us as the ego, as she's the one that's giving you the gifts you ask for. She's the one, giving you the narratives you pray about. She's the one that keeps the game going, that keeps the fun going, right? Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita were walking along. Rama walked first, Sita in the middle, and Lakshmana walked last. Lakshmana was only 2.5 cubits away from Rama, right? But he couldn't see Rama because Sita, Mahamaya, was in the way. So he's just using as an example. You got Rama, who is another incarnation, his brother Lakshmana walking behind him, or walk and not behind him, but Rama in front and Sita, right, walking behind him. So you've got the divine absolute unchanging represented by Rama, right? And right behind Rama is Rama's consort or Rama's partner, Shakti, the world of change, the manifested world. And then behind him is Lakshmana, who's in the manifested world, and he can't see the divine unchanging in front because the Shakti is standing in between the two, right? The manifested world, the power of God is standing in between me and that divine silence of oneness, right? While worshiping God, one should assume a definite attitude. I have three attitudes: the attitude of a child, the attitude of a maidservant, and the attitude of a friend. For a long time, I regarded myself as the maidservant and a woman companion of God. At that time, I used to wear skirts and ornaments like a woman. The attitude of a child is very good. The attitude of a hero is not so good. That's God as your illicit lover. God as your cheat partner. That one's not a good one because of how you would have to view God. Some people cherish it. They regard themselves as Purusha and woman as Prakriti, and they want to propitiate woman through intercourse with her. But this method often causes disaster, right? That's that whole practice of Tantra, right? Where you go in and through sexual encounter, you generate that energy within the body, right? But you don't expend it, right? You don't expend that energy. So it takes an immense amount of discipline to be able to go in and be in a sexual relationship with somebody, but to not bring it to a finish, to keep generating that energy and moving it up, moving it up, moving it up, right? Ramakrishna says, yeah, that is a path, but it's extremely dangerous, right? Because, boy, to sit there and throw yourself in the middle of that and not be attached to it, to be able to maintain control of your body in those circumstances, very difficult to do. So he says that is a way, but that's I want you to come in the front door. Bhakti is coming in the front door. This is coming in through the back door. You have to enter the house through the kitchen if you if you take this path. So he's discouraging us. He says this method often causes disaster, which means you become more interested in the sex than you do about passing through and finding the beloved, the divine. Girish, yeah, at one time I too cherished that idea, right? Everybody does, right? We want to bring boga and yoga. We want enjoyment and we want yoga. We want spiritual life. We don't want to have to give up one for the other, right? So everybody is always in the beginning, always trying to find a way to bring their whole shebang, their whole group into the picture. Oh gosh, it's 5:36. All right. So we'll stop here for today.